It's the Let's Talk Polyamory podcast, where we talk about all things consensual non-monogamy, polyamory, swinging, and all things about how you can have a secure and sexy relationship. Now here's your hosts, Tara and Andre. All right, now on today's topic, reigniting the fire in your relationship.
Long-term relationships.
In long-term relationships.
Which I kind of feel like almost like an imposter to be talking about long-term relationships, as I don't have a whole lot of experience in long-term relationship. The longest relationship I ever had outside of my mother, female relationship, was with a cat for 19 and a half years. When things would get too sticky, too close, too much on that relationship escalator, I would find a way of killing them off or being killed off by them. So it's interesting that I should be this long in a relationship with somebody and now be talking about long-term relationships. But maybe it is actually really good to talk about it because in some ways it's uncharted territory for me. So we're learning as we go.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that. I think that that's the beauty of it, is that we've been, experiencing this ongoing and trying things. And, I've been in some longer term relationships, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert. I know I'm probably an expert in what doesn't work. And which is why I think we've been making a special effort in our relationships to keep things exciting and hot and dynamic and that sort of things. But even we have issues too.
Even we. Yes, experts. It's interesting though, because in the past, at about 2 years or 3 years, I would find it getting very stale. Almost like having fish on the counter that's been there too long and you'd want to get rid of it. And somehow, we've not been really hitting that. But I think also the expression of being open relators gives us the opportunity to not only go outside of ourselves, but to find those other stimulants and bring them back, inject some of that into it. So it makes it easier than feeling as though there's just that noose around my neck that keeps getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah, like we get to experience ourselves both together and then also as an individual again. And so I think that's what's great about being open and polyamorous, is that you have that. And then you may be introduced to things that you're not, familiar with, or you want to try, but you're afraid to do, and that sort of thing. I don't know. Lots of opportunities. So here are the 5 things. Number 1. Have some distance and spend time apart, which is what we just kind of talked about a bit. Number 2, being present.
Coming back together.
Yeah, coming back together. So to have time apart, but then it's also important how you're in your relationship. We talked about being physically present, being emotionally present, and being sexually present. So all 3 things. And this week's topic is interrupting patterns and routines, which we'll get to in just a moment. Number 4 is increasing sexual and erotic energy. That one's going to be pretty hot. Not that any other ones haven't been, but I'm kind of excited about what we're going to talk about for that one. And then number 5 is doing something different and taking deliberate effort. Yeah. So I think we're talking about in all these things taking effort, but we're talking about that extra effort in number 5. So as I said, we talked about the first 2, having some time apart. We talked a bit about that just now, but what is that to you? What does it do for you?
To have time apart from you? It's actually a win-win situation. Not only do I not have to hear from you or see your face again and again, or you or mine, but we also get to go out and experience other people and get the new relationship energy feeling from other people. And then we come back and then we seem less familiar in a sense. We're excited to see each other in that way.
Yeah, because the thing about long-term relationships, and I think this is a known fact, is that it's the thing you want in those relationships: security, familiarity, predictability are exactly the things that tend to dampen the desire, because you become known. You become too known of an element, and then there's that idea of becoming a we.
Yeah, as much as I like chocolate ice cream, I think to have it every day would eventually kind of. I may not have the same level of appreciation for chocolate ice cream, whereas if I mix it up a little bit, I'm like, oh, chocolate again, that's kind of cool.
Ooh, chocolate. And then the being present, which we just mentioned, is like, having all those elements. So when you are together, having quality time and being fully present, like emotionally, physically, and sexually. And, sometimes that's hard as well. And so you also have to make an effort in it. And so now on to interrupting patterns and routines.
It's a good idea. I already feel myself becoming, in some ways, resistant to it, right? Because, these patterns, while they may be automated, they may be routine, they may be stale, they may be a given, they are familiar to us. And the idea of going into the unknown very often is met with resistance. It's met with fear. What's going to happen? Why should I change it? This, that, and the other thing. So even though, and we see this in many demonstrations throughout our lives, even though we have an awareness that it's working okay, but it could be better, it doesn't lead itself enough to actually materialize those changes. For whatever reason, maintaining the status quo often is easier.
Like it's just fine. If I try this thing, what if I fail? You know what I mean? What if I don't get the thing I want? You know what I mean? I think sometimes people prevent themselves from doing the things that they want because they're scared about it. And so we end up doing the same things over and over again, but then and then expecting things to be different. Like if we do missionary position number 1 at 9:00 at night just before bed, that it's going to somehow magically become different and interesting again. If it's not interesting right now, maybe that is super interesting to you.
Sure. And I mean, there's obviously the sexual part where we are in our routine. We do 1-5-7-3, 1-5-7-3, 1-5-7-3, and it becomes kind of automated, known routine. But there's even the roles outside of being 1-5-7-3. We might find emotional roles for each other that we slot each other into, or that we go into, and we become automated with that. So, for example, we're talking about the division of household responsibilities here, and how we have facilitated and participate in these roles. But are they necessarily the best things for us? Maybe, maybe not. But do they become so automated that we kind of feel as like it's a given? And are we able to mix that up a little bit? Maybe we'll go back to that 1-3-5-7 because it is good, but maybe 1-7-5-3 is better than the other one. So we mix it up a little bit to add that variety. So even if we're not having outside demonstrations, sexual partners, dates, whatever, we might still be able to shake it up a little bit in our own dynamics that we can stimulate from the inside as well.
So you were talking about more than just like intimacy. You were talking about our everyday interactions, like who does the dishes, who cooks dinner.
Sure. Who's going to bring flowers home?
Oh, who's going to bring flowers? Oh, flowers would be nice. It's
it would
spring.
be nice, yeah.
Oh, maybe I should bring some flowers.
Maybe
is that a
I should
hint?
as well. Well, I can't remember the last time either of us brought flowers to each other, and that's too bad. Yeah,
that is too bad. Well,
but there's a whole bunch of different ways that we might look to it, right? So if I automatically wait for you to do the thing that I assume you're going to do, are we reinforcing those positions? How can we gain that awareness and then maybe find another way of being? We could then say, well, this other way of being is much more fantastic. Or the other one's like, you know what, the way we had it was pretty good too. Let's continue that. But at least we make that informed decision. We can have consensus on it and see where we want to go with it.
And may I share a little bit more about this morning?
Let's go for it. Our lives are an open book. Let's hear it.
Well, I think we probably seem a little more muted this morning than normal because I don't know.
Okay,
maybe.
Let's go with that. So we're more muted.
I don't know. Maybe we're not. Maybe I'm sensitive to it because I initiated the conversation, which now that information is out, I'm feeling uncomfortable with. So really, I think that's more about me than your reaction to it. Right? It's a bit of both.
Okay.
But what that one was about was, you're talking about the everyday of our everyday routines. And, I'm totally accepting responsibility for my part in enabling a behavior and in you. So, and then being resentful for it because you didn't do the thing that I decided I was going to do. So it's kind of an interesting contrast. And I think that happens, right? So in one way, I wanted you to do something, take more initiative in one area of our everyday life. But then again, I wasn't allowing you the opportunity to do that because I was taking it on because I was impatient or that sort of thing. So there was a bit of that. But then, like you said, then it builds up some sort of resentment and eventually you have to say something. And then that sort of everyday thing can have you look at your partner in a different way. Like I didn't realize until I think we had the conversation that I was actually maybe a bit resentful about it. I mean, I had a sense of it, but it bleeds into other parts of our life, like our desire and that sort of thing. So
sure.
now
Desires and resentments don't go very well together at all.
Yeah. So I wonder how, now that we've had this conversation, that maybe we can get a little bit of a shift.
Mm-hmm. Well, just at the very idea that we are having this conversation, our willingness and ability to speak openly about the things that we might find difficult, I think is already giving us a ticket to the show. Because otherwise, you just harbor your resentments and I harbor mine, and then, who knows what's going to happen of it? How will they manifest themselves, right? It's like the resentment is like this little thing that's under pressure, and eventually it finds its way to the surface, or we simply internalize it and have it become a carcinogen, right? It wears on us, and it becomes a factor of contention. It makes us want to shut down, distance, go out and feel justified in other actions, a whole bunch of horrible things, as opposed to simply talking about it. Let me hear your position. Let me listen to understand what you're saying. And then what's my stance? How may I offer a rebuttal? But a rebuttal of love that comes from it, from understanding, as opposed to simply say, well, you did this and I did that and all of that stuff. So can I really appreciate your position? Can you hear my position? And where can we find the issues that need to be addressed? And where can we also acknowledge how much overlap we have, that it does work well?
Yeah, and I think if you allow these things to build over time, they can just get worse and worse. And and also can be fed on misunderstanding. Oh, someone's noticing us being more contained.
Notice Andre Turkov.
Well, I think that, I think people have become to know us. And so it's obvious when maybe, we're all like, I feel a bit off and, uncomfortable, but maybe that's good. Like that's what we're here to do. But I'm thinking back to, like, sometimes someone may not even know that something is bothering you. Like it could be a partner, it could be someone at work. I remember a situation I had at work, and where someone I worked with had gone on vacation. And so I picked up some of their duties while they were away. And then when they returned, I continued to do those things, not realizing that that's what I was doing. And their interpretation of that was that I didn't think they could do their job, all these things, which was not the case. And so they started backing away from things. And then I started believing that they didn't want to work anymore. They were mad at me. It created this huge, unnecessary rift in the relationship. So it wasn't until somebody stepped in that that we realized this, and it was like, oh shit, this was completely built on a misinterpretation. So I think that can happen in our relationships too, and then that's when I think the desire and all that stuff dives.
Right. So,
you can have beliefs.
Yeah. So going back to that scenario, you had your position, your coworker had their position, and you both thought something that was not necessarily true, but it wasn't spoken until a third came in and helped identify our positions.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful when we employ a third, but when we don't have that, how can we bring ourselves to have these difficult conversations? How can we announce our position? How can we say what's on our mind in a open and loving way?
That is a good question. Do you have an answer?
Well, I think it starts with that very position of awareness. Really, it does. And then, I know that I have some type of grievance, or I have some idea of wanting something different, whatever it might be. Am I able to openly communicate that? And if I don't feel so secure, well, then what is that about? But generally, I think as expressive human beings, we should be able to articulate our feelings, our position, and put it out there and see how it's acknowledged, how it's returned. Is there a willingness demonstrated by the other person? Are they wanting to find compromise, or are they simply dug into their own position? And I'm imagining that most times people do want to make compromise. They are wanting to find some solution. So we get to that by communicating our thoughts and our feelings.
Yeah, but I think sometimes you do need that third person. In our case, if my memory serves me correct, this was a long time ago. I was like trying to talk to them, but they were so not wanting to talk to me because they were so angry that I was doing XYZ in their mind, and it was really hard to break through that barrier, which is why, I'm sure you found it when you're working with couples and that sort of thing, that sometimes there's like the one thing that once discovered changes everything, with them. Like, it's like, it could be that someone just wanted to admit something, or,
The acknowledgement of,
not just feel guilty, but feel remorseful for doing something. And it's a different, feel like, empathy for the other person's feelings if there was some sort of transgression or something like that.
Right.
A break in an agreement.
Right. And if it wasn't addressed as was happening, and we just go away with it, we might then harbor those resentments, and then those resentments make it difficult to come back to the table and talk about those things, because we now have the original issue at hand, but then all of what we've came into that with resentment, right? I felt as though I've been neglected, or I've been wronged, or whatever it is, and we start to really solidify that position of hurt, and then it makes it that much more difficult to come back to negotiating. So yes, sometimes we are benefiting by employing a third person who is able to help facilitate that dialogue, to help figure out what are the real issues at play, and how might we come to address them.
Just from my own experience, seeing when that happens, when that realization comes, is so amazing, because then people can't see things, they can no longer see things the way they were seeing before, because it's like something has come to light, and it's pretty spectacular and amazing when it happens. I don't know. I just love it. I love that part of the work I do. So on to things. So, this is all about disrupting patterns and routines. So how do we mix it up? So how do we mix it up?
You're asking me? Let's figure out, how do we mix it up? Well, we're going to try something new. We're going to, I guess, again, come back to that heightened state of awareness of the way things are. What is the status quo? What are the elements that make this as it is? And then how could we interrupt that? How could we mix it up? So if you are always doing the cooking, for just, worst hypothetical or stereotypical example, you're doing the cooking and I am waiting to be fed. Well, what can I do to...
Which is not true.
To mix that up.
You usually are doing the cleaning, up.
Whatever it is.
Chasing me around.
Can we find a way to break that routine?
Yeah.
As good as that routine might be, but why should we break that routine? Why do we want to do that? Because it might...
Stimulate.
It might stimulate.
Yeah.
Right? It might interrupt that feeling that we are already in this routine. It's this cycle that is just going to be so familiar, it becomes not only boring, but we start to loathe it. That it's like, oh my God, it's happening again, and it's again, and it's, it's like we said earlier, we're just kind of mailing it in. So we want to really find a conscious way of identifying those areas and seeing how we can interject just through our own. We don't even need the exterior stimulation. We can do that as an individual, but as a couple, and really see how we're able to make that shift.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, I think it's realizing where the routine and pattern is, because maybe we don't realize them, that we're stepping in and falling into these patterns. And so identifying them first, and then you have a space in which to disrupt them.
Oh, that's interesting. So even before they actually manifest, we might have an awareness. Well, let's, always be aware that we might not want to take each other for granted, that we might want to always have some awareness of how we slot into these roles, and are they serving us? And when can we let it be known that maybe we're becoming less stimulated?
How could we?
Well,
we could have conversations.
We could, but as I'm saying that, I'm wondering, like, what about the ego, right? That sense of like, oh, if I tell my partner that, I'm not really into 1-3-7, I kind of want to like get rid of the one, and I don't want to offer the solution. I'm kind of hoping that they might. But if I introduce this topic, are they going to feel as though, it's an indication of their being in any way insufficient, or that I'm not satisfied because of them? How could we resist their experiencing it as a personalized thing? How can the ego be held but not threatened?
Well, I think you turn it back on. It's just like communication, like active communication, and using I statements. Like, I think, saying to yourself, like saying to your partner, I'm feeling like I need something different to, elevate my desire or stimulation. And I would love to try and experience this with you.
So speaking from I or me might then help preface it in a way that it's not like, well, you're doing this and you do that. And, okay, well,
and I probably didn't do that very well this morning.
Did you mention something this morning?
About how I was feeling about the activities in the home and how I was built, having some resentment. I feel that I might have been less focused on how I felt about it and more a little bit maybe blamey.
No, I didn't see it that way. I thought that you did a very good job of announcing your position that you were wanting to feel something else. I thought you did a very excellent job for that.
Thank you. Okay.
How else can we disrupt our routines and patterns?
Well, we can also try something old.
Try something old.
So try something old. So like, I know you always bring this example up. So you had mentioned about kissing. So what would happen if, seriously, like I know we've written this in the notes several times, but what would happen if we just decided that we were just going to kiss like we did when we first met? And that's it. Like spend a week kissing and touching over the clothes and not doing anything else and just leave it like that.
Did we go a week? I thought it was like a first date. But
no, I think it was 3 dates. But
as you said it though, I want to bring to mind the idea that I might kiss without expectation. Not only without the expectation of going to second base, without the emotional expectation. So I'm going to kiss you, but I'm not going to have this pressure, this self-imposed pressure that there's going to be fireworks or there's going to be like all this movement or anything.
Oh yes, those expectations.
So it might simply just be the demonstration. I'm demonstrating to myself the willingness to participate in this, to be present, to not simply just mail it in. You know, if I'm feeling not really up to it, or if there's harboring resentments or whatever the circumstance might be, I might first offer some resistance, say, I'm not really into it, or I'm busy right now, or whatever it might be. But then even if I do bring myself to participate in it, am I really being present in doing so? Am I wanting to? Am I able to? And how much of that resistance is my internalized dialogue? So can I go, and even, you know, if I don't have the luxury of clearing all that house, could I simply suspend them long enough to participate in this activity with open heart, with positional presence?
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I was thinking the same thing as I was getting ready, and I knew this was in the notes. I was thinking about it and going like, could I just, like you said, just kind of suspend expectation and not go like, oh, if this doesn't feel like this, or if it feels awkward or whatever it is, because we haven't done it in a long time, is that okay? Can I just be okay with it?
Well, it makes me think back to when we encourage some of the people we work with to do sensate, right? They are to suspend all anticipations or all projections that it's going to culminate in a certain destination. We simply want to see how we're able to become present again. Right? So on my first date with you, I don't think I had much in the way of expectations that it was going to culminate in a certain thing if I were to kiss you. I was just in the moment. And then somehow, all of a sudden, 1,000 dates later, there's this expectation that, well, if I do this and that, it's probably going to end up over there. And now, if it doesn't, am I disappointed? And if it does, has it simply just become part of that routine?
I think for myself, I put a little bit of pressure on myself because I think, you know, lots been going on. I think myself, my own desire has dipped. And I think that there's a lot of, you know, things that are factoring into it. And so suspending that judgment is something that's will be important for me to do. And it's not easy. You know what I mean? It's not easy. And especially when you're doing it on your own sort of thing, like you're just kind of not own, but you know what I mean? Like you're doing a discovery on your own. Like, how can I, you know, and just being curious, like I, you know, wanting to approach things with curiosity, like, oh, I'm feeling this way. That's interesting. Okay. Just be a scientist. That's fine. Move on to the next thing, you know, that sort of thing. But anyways, so lots of things you could do with kissing.
Yeah.
So slow kisses, you know, playful kisses. Like we have our new little laughing kiss, which is super fun, which makes me smile.
It's hard not to laugh when you're doing that kiss, right? Yeah, it's a good kiss. That's why I call it the laughing kiss.
The laughing kiss. Like knockout kisses, ones that are really, you know, when you kind of like attack the person and you kiss them, push them down on the bed, that kind of kiss.
Oh, like a movie kiss.
Like, yeah, like a movie
Hollywood
kiss.
movie kiss.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Try to do like one of those Hollywood kisses. I think those things are really fake. Like, it's like I used to think, how do they do that? And the mouth open and all that. And when I started kissing, I was like, it's not like the movie.
Okay, but so on that topic, a Hollywood kiss, and
do you guys like Hollywood kisses?
well, for me, it's a lot like porn, like mainstream porn. It sets up this unrealistic expectation that, you know, the wind's going to be blowing, the violins are going to be playing, all this stuff. I'm going to sweep you off your feet, and there's going to be such passion. It'll be wonderful. But am I setting myself up for some level of disappointment in that?
That's true. It can be.
I wonder how we could go at it as amateurs and kiss with that same intensity, without the expectation of that it should meet these standards if they're not really all that realistic.
I think being exploratory is fun.
Well, yeah, the exploratory is wonderful because I think then the pressure of having to find something is lifted, right? So I might be a treasure hunter, but doesn't necessarily mean that this map is actually going to lead me to treasure. It might take a while. It might be, you know, it's maybe the labor of love getting there than actually finding that very treasure.
I'm smiling at you because I'm all of a sudden was distracted by your lips and talking about kissing.
So being exploratory is wonderful, right?
Yeah.
See if we can find other ways to kiss.
Yeah, nibbling, sucking, biting.
Have we ever kissed upside down?
Yes, we have.
In a 69 position?
Yes, but I was thinking me hanging upside down on the silks and you kissing me upside down.
And I was upright and you were upside down?
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? Is it strange?
It was fun. I think we should try that again.
Okay.
Add to the list.
But even just now, like just 2 seconds, using our imagination, right? Because it's said that our brains are our biggest sex organ. So how can we find ways to self-stimulate and stimulate our partners and be stimulated by?
Yeah. And so other things you can do is like take yourself out of your comfort zone. And like, again, it said that's sometimes can be hard to do, but it can be simply trying a new time. Yeah.
You know, taking yourself out of the comfort zone makes me think back to that earlier idea of how we've slotted ourselves or our partners into certain roles. And then to take myself out of that, I have such investment in your being what I want you to be. I project you into this role, right? So why would I want to mix that up? Why would I want to change that? I can feel myself already becoming resistant to the idea, but there might be opportunity on the other side of that, right? So say, for example, I felt that you were better at being the admin in the relationship to you. Hypothetically. Couldn't happen at all. None of this
ever happened. Nope.
So
made up story just for TV.
Fictitious, all that. So it suits me well to have you slotted into that role, and you're very good at it, so you agree
and
to
I
it.
like it because I'm good at it.
Sure.
So it feeds that.
But then 10 years later, we wake up and we're like, wait a second, I've been doing all the admin stuff. And I'm like, well, I've been profiting because I like that. And now we think, well, but we should mix it up in our routine because Andre and Tara say so. And we're like, wait a second, this sucks. Like, I don't want to mix this up. This is scary. Now I'm going to have to like start taking on these other roles and blah, blah, blah. And all of that idea that I had to myself. But if we can overcome that resistance, that initial resistance, we might see, well, there is also some opportunity to gain some greater feeling of independence. So now I don't feel as though I'm dependent on you to do the admin. I am self-sufficient and I can invite you to come into that rather than feeling I need you to do that. So if you were to be the admin and suddenly say, you know what, I'm going on a 2-month vacation. It's like, wow, what am I going to do? I've always had you feed me that way. Now what am I going to do? Whereas I become more self-sufficient, I can say, well, you know what, go on a 2-month vacation, have a good time, and when you get back, we'll hang.
Yeah, and you've done this with your own business. Like I used to do a lot of your stuff with your admin, with your business online. And then finally, I think I must have said something and you started taking it on because I think it was something that was like not comfortable for you, right? So
that's about the time you taught me how to shave, which I haven't been doing very well.
Oh, shush.
No, it's like raising a child. For me, it's like raising a child. I wanted to put you in that role because it served me. I was afraid to do it. And I would have probably held on to those fears. I would have wanted to maintain that sequence because I knew that it worked. This little bit of pain, this resistance, this fear is the opportunity of growth. And I will do this on my own as I have done the other things and feel as though I am self-actuating. It's empowering.
Yeah. And I was enabling because it's something, you know, when I can do something well and help somebody, it serves me in that way. But then I think, you know, it does tend to, over time, become an extra thing that I have to do that maybe take away from, add on to the other things I need to do, sort of thing.
Right,
but anyway.
right. There's a great comment here from our users. A lot of us started our concept of romance from what we read in books and watched in movies, and reality wasn't like that at all. So we always thought something was wrong with us. And I think one of the things of those, you know, when we get the instruction through porn or through Hollywood, they're never asking us, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
They never checks in with us. They're, what would work well for you, and what if this doesn't seem so maintainable or achievable or desirable? Yeah. So the reason why I bring that up is because, again, how do we announce our preferences, our position, have those difficult conversations? How do we get any voice to say what we're preferring and not preferring?
Yeah.
So
sometimes you just have to do it.
Sure.
So we talked about a couple things.
Well,
So
write our own script.
Write our own script, yeah. So sometimes people like to look at pictures or read something erotic. I have some clients that said they started off, you know, by reading, you know, kind of naughty stories, and that helped change things and get ideas. I don't think that's something we've done very often.
No, but you know, I think I could do a whole live on just that idea of when we have sex or masturbate, how we might have our go-to, right? So I might always fantasize about this kind of thing, or I might always use that kind of toy. So what's wrong with that? Well, there's
silence.
In theory, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes,
but if it becomes some form of dependence, if I feel as though that is the thing, well, then would I be well served not only for my partner in my relationship, but for my own, if I'm able to look at that and possibly recalibrate it so I don't feel as though I have to have that thing in place, but that I could have that thing in place.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think we talked about trying a new time, trying a new place, everything but penetration. That sounds fun. Dress differently. So this is a good one, because I think one of the patterns people get into, especially if they're nesting partners, is they get home from work, or if they work from home, they're wearing their nice clothes, and then it's time to spend time with their partner, and then on goes on the track pants, which, as we know, I mean, some people find them sexy, but they're also may not be, you know. What about dressing up instead of dressing down for a change, to change things up? Yeah,
I wonder if symbolically what that really says is I'm seeing you, I'm making a gesture because I want to feel good about myself, but I also want to show you that I am kind of fluffing my feathers a bit. I'm wanting to show you that, you know.
Peacocking.
Yeah, exactly. The peacock makes this display and says, look at how I've demonstrated for you. Won't you find me attractive and come over and nest with me, or play with me, or have eggs with me, or whatever it is we're going to do?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So try and do something to interrupt that pattern.
Yeah.
Catch yourself. The own self-awareness of where we might have these patterns that we're participating in, because it's easy to say, oh, my husband always does this, or my lover always does that, or, you know, she's this or he's that. But what part am I playing?
Exactly. I know that I am guilty of that, is after we come off our live, or after I'm done meeting clients online, I change out of my dress or my, you know, whatever it is I'm wearing. And then, you know, you might have seen me early in the day and went, ooh, you look good, or that sort of thing. And then it's like back to the track pants and the ugly sweater that's so comfy, you know what I mean? So yeah, making a little bit of an effort. So doing something fun together that's maybe a little different, you know, maybe our speed dating. That's sometimes fun to change something up. You know, that's could be putting yourself into some uncomfortable situation, but also meeting new people. Yeah.
I like the other day, we got an invite to go to somebody's birthday, and it was at a casino, and we had a date with somebody before that. And by the time the date finished, I was kind of like, you know what, I'm tired. And left to my own devices, I probably would not have gone. But you energized me and said, well, let's challenge ourselves. Let's go outside of, you know, the norm of going to bed at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Let's just do it. So we got dressed and we ran down, and I'm glad that we did. It was a way of interrupting our routine.
Yeah,
we probably would have just, you know, watched TV and then
watched a movie and gone to bed. But we got all dressed up. We rallied. Like I think I wore a pretty sexy dress. You got all dressed up. You looked pretty nice. So then I got to watch you interacting with just talking with people in another environment.
That's fun.
And for me, that like raised my excitement. I mean, I think
I saw you work in the room. It was dynamite.
I was not working in the room.
Totally.
I might have been peacocking a little bit. I do love that dress that I wore.
Doesn't it have feathers and things on it?
It has some sort of like fluffy sleeves. I think that's what it's for. Anyways, it is kind of a peacocky. Even though it's all black, it's very peacocky, I think. I think you can't help but miss it. Mm-hmm. And we were actually trying to find the friends in the bar, and I didn't know them. So we were walking around, and the girlfriend said she noticed me because she noticed my dress first.
What a fantastic device. What a fantastic opportunity to go out and put that on. So the dress in many ways can do the talking for you. Mm-hmm. I feel bad for people who've never worn a dress like that. Right? I mean, there's many people that would never find their way to that and never know that experience. Mm-hmm. It could be fun to allow yourself to go kind of crazy like that.
Yeah. And when I bought it, I was like, this is crazy, this dress. And it's really short and tight. And you know what I mean? I know you like short and tight dresses. And so I bought it thinking, I'm going to wear this sometime out. And I did. I felt sexy and exciting and desirous. And, if it wasn't so late when we got home, I think, a lot more might have happened. But alas, it was late. So.
It was late.
Is that TMI?
It was late.
What are you thinking?
Wondering about the conversation we had earlier, and had we had that conversation 2 weeks ago, if the lateness of the night would have seemed less late. So if I'm feeling as though I'm being taxed or not seen or whatever it might be, is that going to impact my sexual desire, my sexual expression, my drive? And I don't see how it could not.
Yeah. Well, somehow we were able to get going and get up the door despite being super tired.
We did that. We did that because it was going out. But I'm talking about when we come back in. Mm-hmm. So, if we'd been 2 weeks into our dating, we probably would have taken advantage that we were just on this. But here we are, 25 years later. And we 25. Has it not been 25?
No, 4.5. Long enough.
Right. The comfort level that we have might say, well, it's okay not to do it tonight on a Saturday night after having dressed up beautifully and gone to a party and had all of those elements. It's okay if we just go into comfort. And that's true. Mm-hmm. It is okay. But sometimes maybe we could find ways of that acknowledgement and say, well, you know what? I am going to make this new offering. I am going to find these other ways of resisting my default setting. So for me, I'm too tired. I'm like, you know what? Of course, I love you. You look wonderful. And you know that I love you. And I think you look wonderful. But it's okay if we just kind of fall back into the bed seems so comfortable. Let's just go to sleep.
Yeah. It's super easy to do that.
It is. So it sounds like it'd be perfectly fine and okay. But then there's part of me that says, well, is that going to become the new norm? Is that too routine?
No. And for some people, that is the new norm.
Right.
And it hasn't been the norm for us. And I think we probably, because we've been nesting together more, it's become a little bit more apparent. Right. And so I think, we have to make a little more of a special effort. And I'm going to put that on myself as well, is to shut off the computer and stop working as part of it. Make sure I get enough rest myself, and then take time when I'm awake and maybe do something a little different. So in which case I have this little thing for you, Andre. I don't know if you can see it.
You have a surprise here.
To Andre.
Oh my God.
So it's a little something.
Okay.
It's an invitation.
Thank you.
To do something a little different. And you don't have to open it now, but it is inspired by this conversation, the conversation we had earlier. And I would like to make an extra effort. And so I'm going to put myself out of my comfort zone and invite us to perhaps try a new position and a new way of relating. So this is part 1.
Right. Actually, funny you say that, because I believe that National Anal Day is coming up, isn't it?
It's today.
It's today. National Anal Day. Oh, no.
Okay, so
that's
maybe.
That's so much warning. I need at least a 2-year warning. open.
Apparently that's what it is today. So maybe we might need the date on this should be dated tomorrow instead of today, but
I'm curious.
you can open it if you want.
Somebody says they'd like me to
open it.
Should I?
Yeah,
okay,
open it.
Let's open it. Oh my God! Wow, this is beautiful. Oh wow! All right. It says the art of desire. Wow. It's rather lengthy.
It's rather lengthy. So
Yeah.
basically, it's an invitation, and basically, it's inviting you, your sexy self, to come and experience something with me.
Okay. Something with you, right? And
Yes.
it says the areas among the muscles on which you should most concentrate are the legs, the back, the tongue. Nice. It is also recommended that you bring your sexy self.
Yes. So limber up, because we're going to be doing something that may be putting us out of our comfort zone
Interesting.
in terms of our
Right.
positioning.
Bringing my sexy self, I immediately think about the beginning of this conversation and will I bring myself free of baggage, or will I be lugging my resentments with me? Can I be present? Could I really check those things at the door and just show up as my sexy self? What a wonderful invitation.
And then there's a diagram.
And then there's a map. We talked about how, serendipitous. We spoke about the hunt.
You didn't know I was doing this.
No, not at all. Sent for the hunt for treasure, and it even comes with a map. Have we seen this? Is that?
Yep, you can see it.
That's
the
fantastic.
She-Wolf 141.
Did you draw that? Look at this. This is frameable.
I might have cheated. I might have found it on the internet.
Wow.
But in the instructions, for me, this is part of a book called 52 Invitations to Great Sex. I've had it for years. It's good. I mean, it gives you some idea. It's not going to, transform your life. But well, it might.
How do you know?
But the fact that I've had it for years and there's still several unopened, although I got this in other like I bought this for myself when I was in other relationships, obviously thinking that something was not going well, and yet look, the invitations remain
right. But what's interesting is that you say it's not going to transform it, and here you bought it in a relationship and hoping that it might have some change, and yet many of the pages have never been opened.
Yeah.
So we had the idea, we'll try something new, but are we really going to participate? Are we actually going to follow through with it?
Well, that's the thing. I think we have to have our own desire to follow through. And in the case of this one, there's partner activities. So your partner can open one set, you can open one set. So it goes back and forth is the idea. And I think there wasn't the back and forth, or there was a discomfort. Even myself at the time when I bought it, when I would see the little, because you don't know until you open it what's inside. And you're like, ugh, like what's going to ask me to do that's super uncomfortable?
Isn't that amazing that our reaction should be, oh, what's going to do? It's going to be uncomfortable, as opposed to, wow, that's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
So I wonder, though, what informs that position? Why should we go from, wow, it's going to be so much fun, to, oh boy, I wonder what's going to ask me. Like, does that mean I'm going to have to, fluff myself? It's a porn term. Should we ready ourselves to be real participants in it? Is that going to feel too taxing?
Yeah.
But it comes back down to the earlier idea of one of the components is taking that action. Right?
Taking the action.
In theory, I buy the book. I think, it's great. I'll even call these guys and maybe set up an appointment. We'll talk about it. But am I going to do the work? Am I going to take that action? Am I going to really put my money where my mouth is? Yeah,
because there's tons of free videos, there's books you can read, there's all kinds of, you can Google all the things and find the positions, but you got to actually do it. Right. And I think that's why when we were thinking about what program we might put together for people, we thought about our erotic exotic staycation transformation, because you can leave that into our hands. You basically have to show up, but with a willingness to get outside your comfort zone. Right. But we've decided what the things are. Love myself. We've decided the things that we think would be great for you to do. And then we tell you what to do, just like this. And then you got to show up and do it.
Right. So
there's a bit of accountability associated with it.
So we're going to help address some positions of resistance, but we want you to show up and take the action. And the first action is by showing up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to accept your invitation, and I'm going to try and show up in my loving, authentic self and I'm going to see if I'm able to suspend all the things that don't belong there at that moment. I'll check them at the door.
And me too.
All right.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
So if you want to up-level your sex, pleasure, eroticism in your relationship, and you want to do more than just buy a book, you can join us on our exotic staycation, transformation, 12 sexy dates, reflections, fun, excitement, and
accountability.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
because I think even ourselves, when we come home Saturday night and we say let's just watch a movie and go to bed, we are postponing it, right? And it's like, we'll do it tomorrow. And it's like, well, tomorrow never happens, as Janice Joplin pointed out.
Thanks everyone for coming and listening to us. Let's keep talking. Yay!
See you Friday. Bye.
Bye. If you want to explore polyamory, open up a relationship, or try your hand at swinging, we can help. Check out our website at taranandre.com for information on our Poly Newbies digital course or our deeper dive open relationship and polyamory mastery program where you get direct coaching from us. There's also other individual and couples coaching options there as well. Thanks for listening to the Let's Talk Polyamory podcast with TNA. Don't forget to subscribe and give us some love on your favorite podcasting platform. You can check out the show notes for any of the links to the courses or information we talked about today. Thanks and have a fantastic and sexy day.